In the quiet, sun-baked town of Cebu, tucked between rolling green hills and the endless stretch of rice fields, lived a poor young man named Lito, whose life revolved around a shallow village well and his faithful old carabao, Cemon. Every morning before dawn, while most of the village still slept beneath rusted tin roofs, Lito would tie a frayed rope around Cemon's neck and walk barefoot down the rocky path toward the well. His hands were blistered from years of pulling water, his skin darkened by the tropical sun, and his clothes were patched so many times that their original color had long disappeared. Poverty had painted his life in shades of struggle, but his eyes still carried a quiet fire, one that refused to die out. The people of Cebu knew Lito as the boy from the well, a title they used not with pride, but pity. Children often giggled when they saw him, whispering that he smelled like muddy water and cow sweat. The wealthy men of the town, dressed in crisp shirts, would pass by him as though he were invisible. Yet every insult that hit Lito's ears only seemed to strengthen something inside him. He knew he was poor, yes, but not worthless. Every drop of water he pulled from that well was a reminder that hard work, though humble, built endurance. Sometimes, when the world grew too heavy, he would rest his head against Cemon's warm hide and talk to him like a friend. One day, "Old boy," he would whisper, "they'll see. We may be poor, but we are not broken." Lito's mother had died when he was young, and his father, worn by illness and hunger, could no longer work. That left Lito as the sole provider for his family. He sold water in old plastic containers to nearby villagers, earning just enough for rice and dried fish. There were nights he went to sleep hungry so his father could eat. But even in those dark hours, as the crickets sang and the moonlight fell across their bamboo hut, Lito's spirit never faded. He would look at the stars through the gaps in his roof and imagine a better life, one where he could lift his father out of misery, where his hard work would mean something. Every day, as he lowered his bucket into the echoing darkness of the well, Lito saw a reflection of his own life, deep, uncertain, but filled with unseen strength. The villagers might not have understood him, but he understood himself. He believed that real strength wasn't about how much you owned, it was about how much you could endure without giving up. And so, day after day, Lito worked with quiet faith, shaping his destiny with every pull of the rope, every drop of sweat that hit the ground. In his heart, he carried one truth stronger than hunger or pain: a poor man can be rich in courage, and a broken world cannot shatter an unbroken soul. One fateful evening, as the monsoon clouds gathered over Cebu, the sky darkened and thunder rolled like angry drums. The rain came down in roaring sheets, flooding the fields and drowning the narrow dirt roads. The next morning, when the storm finally eased, Lito walked to the village well only to find it had collapsed, buried under mud and broken stones. The lifeline of the entire town was gone. The villagers stood around in shock, murmuring in despair. Without the well, there would be no water for cooking, washing, or drinking. The wealthier families packed their things and left for neighboring towns, but the poor, like Lito and his father, had nowhere to go. For the first time, fear crept into Lito's heart, yet behind that fear burned a decision that would change his life forever. He clenched his fists, looked at the ruins of the well, and said quietly, "If no one will save us, then I will." With no machines, no help, and no money, Lito began to dig. His only companions were his bare hands, a rusty shovel, and his loyal carabao, Cemon. The earth was heavy and wet, and every shovel of mud felt like lifting the world. The villagers watched him, shaking their heads. Some laughed, calling him a fool. "You can't rebuild the well alone," they mocked. But Lito didn't answer them. Every insult, every doubt, only pushed him harder. His back ached, his palms split open, and his skin burned under the sun, but he refused to stop. A man doesn't fail when he falls, he told himself, he fails when he stops trying. Days turned into weeks. The heat of the day and the chill of the night became his constant companions. He tied a small cloth around his bleeding hands and kept digging. When exhaustion struck, Cemon stood beside him patiently, helping pull rocks from the pit, their bond deeper than words. Lito often whispered to his old friend, "We'll find water again, Cemon. We have to." His faith became his fuel. His dream wasn't about pride, it was about survival, about proving that courage means doing what must be done even when no one believes in you. Slowly, something changed in the hearts of the villagers. The same people who had mocked him began to watch in silence, humbled by his determination. Some brought him food, others fetched tools. Little by little, hope returned to the village. Even the children stopped laughing and started helping. What began as one poor boy's impossible dream had become the heartbeat of an entire community. Though his body weakened, Lito's spirit only grew stronger. His sweat mixed with the earth, and his pain became a prayer for something greater. Through every drop of rain, every blister, and every tear, Lito learned that the true test of strength is not how much you can lift, but how much you can endure when life gives you nothing but hardship. He was poor, but inside him burned the fire of 1,000 storms, unbroken, unstoppable, and unshakably human. After weeks of relentless effort, when most would have surrendered to exhaustion, something extraordinary happened. One early morning, as the first light of dawn touched the muddy pit, Lito struck his shovel into the ground and heard a faint, hollow sound. Moments later, a thin stream of clear, cold water bubbled up from beneath the earth. For a second, he couldn't believe his eyes. Then, as the water began to rise, his heart pounded with joy and disbelief. He fell to his knees, tears mixing with the mud on his face, and whispered, "We did it, Cemon, we did it." The loyal carabao stood beside him, snorting softly, as if it understood the victory. The sound of rushing water echoed across Cebu like a miracle. Villagers came running, eyes wide with wonder. The boy they had once mocked, the poor, barefoot water seller, had brought life back to the village. The crowd gathered around the new well, speechless. For a long moment, no one said a word. Then, an old woman stepped forward, her voice trembling. "You've saved us, Lito," she said. "You've saved our children." One by one, people began to clap, cheer, and cry. The same hands that once pointed at him in laughter were now lifted in gratitude. The mayor came, too, offering praise and help, but Lito only smiled humbly. He didn't build the well for fame or fortune, he did it because he believed that giving up was never an option. For the first time, the entire village understood what true strength looked like. It wasn't born from wealth or education, it came from faith, persistence, and the courage to rise after every fall. Lito became a symbol of hope for Cebu. His story traveled across towns, schools, and radio stations. People began calling him the boy who never broke. Reporters came to see the well, and children began visiting him to hear his story. Yet, despite all the attention, Lito remained the same humble soul, still drawing water each morning, still caring for Cemon, still greeting everyone with a warm smile. He knew that greatness doesn't come from success, it comes from the struggle that shapes you into someone unbreakable. Years later, the well still flowed strong, a living reminder of one man's unyielding spirit. The villagers taught their children to never forget Lito's words, "Pain may break your body, but never let it break your will." The water that once symbolized survival now represented resilience, hope, and unity. And whenever people felt hopeless, they would gather around the well, telling newcomers the story of the poor boy who dug through the earth and found both water and purpose. Lito's journey proved that the strongest people aren't those who never fall, they're the ones who rise again and again, no matter how deep the well of life may seem. His story wasn't just about survival, it was about transformation, a reminder to the world that no matter where you come from, if your spirit remains unbroken, you can move mountains, heal hearts, and change lives forever.